This is a review of the novel A Clockwork Orange, the film Inception, The Great Gatsby, and the play Hamlet.
No excellent soul is exempt from a mixture of madness.
As Aristotle was saying here, everyone has the potential for madness. So I'm going to be discussing the fine line between madness and sanity. My thesis is madness and sanity are complex ideas that are explored in both Anthony Burgess's novel A Clockwork Orange and Christopher Nolan's film Inception, showing that while one individual may see as sane, another may view as madness, and it is personal perception which shapes how the two extremes are perceived. Let's start with A Clockwork Orange, a novel by English author Anthony Burgess and published in 1962. A Clockwork Orange is a dystopian novel set in a reimagined future of society, following the story of Alex, a troubled 15-year-old boy. After leading a group of delinquents in a horrific crime spree, Alex is captured by authorities and is subjected to a controversial government program called the Ludovico technique. The Ludovico technique is designed to psychologically reassociate the idea of violence with intense physical sickness. The treatment strips Alex of his ability to choose between good and evil acts and raises questions about free will, morality, and how it plays into social order. At the end of the film, at the end of the novel, Alex regains his free will and joins the general hypocrisy of society, a happy ending for a relatively mad protagonist. Author Anthony Burgess discusses the meaning of the title to his novel in the book's introduction when he says that it refers to a person who has the appearance of an organism, lovely with color and juice, but is in fact only a clockwork toy to be wound up by God or the devil, or, since this is increasingly replacing both, the almighty state. In this story, this refers to the fact that Alex, once in control of his mind and identity, is changed with his altered mindset by enduring the Ludovico treatment. An important symbol in A Clockwork Orange is music, specifically Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Alec loves classical music, which shows that despite his violent behavior, he has a deep emotional and even cultured side. His love for music shows he is more than just a mad criminal, he has a complex and fragile personality. Following the Ludovico program, Alex becomes physically ill when hearing Beethoven. This shows that the music is a direct connection to Alex's violent urges. It symbolizes sanity and what he has lost. Alex's change in personality can be characterized by his distaste for Beethoven. Before prison, Beethoven was used by Alex as a way to disconnect from his violent actions and find sanity in his actions. After prison, Alex gets physically ill from hearing the music, as it is a source of madness and it reminds him of the free will he had lost. An important motif in A Clockwork Orange is language, specifically Nadsat, the fictional slang spoken by Alex and the other youths of his gang. Creating a new slang that was used in his novel was a brilliant decision because, like slang differentiates among generations throughout the world today, Nadsat allows Burgess to have his characters communicate in ways that makes them separate and stand out from others. He also has used this fictional language to make the violence almost seem whimsical. The central tension in the novel A Clockwork Orange is the conflict between free will and control. At the heart of the novel is the question: is a man who chooses to be bad perhaps some way better than a man who has good imposed upon him? As Alex begins as a violent, remorseless teenager who delights in violence. However, after he is arrested and subjected to the Ludovico technique, he becomes incapable of making his own decisions at all. This raises a dilemma. Although Alex cannot harm others, he is stripped of his humanity since he no longer possesses free will. Offering his critique on authoritarianism, Burgess highlights a dichotomy between free will and control of someone as a central tension. A connection can be made between A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess and the novel The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald through the theme of control. Gatsby wants to control his future, what his future could be. He pursues this idealized future. His pursuit of this idealized future can be seen as madness, as he is willing to do anything he can to get with Daisy one more time. Another example of control in The Great Gatsby is the use of physical barriers to designate old money and new money cohorts. While outside interpretation, it may seem odd and exclusionary, those who are in the environment don't like to mix. It is a sane, rational solution to which these characters deem to be a problem. Additionally, Tom despises Gatsby because Daisy likes Gatsby. Tom grows sick of Gatsby, and by digging into Gatsby's past, he is attempting to control Gatsby and keep him away from Daisy. A popular quote is "Money is the root of all evil," and Gatsby, having a lot of money, uses it as a mechanism to control. He is not consumed by his wealth, but is mad by the loss of Daisy, and he thinks that through wealth he can reach Daisy. An example of control in A Clockwork Orange is how the government uses its powers and methods to control the screw-ups of society. The government imposes order by stripping people of their free will, psychological conditioning, and poor prison conditions are just a few of the ways that they go through with this. Another example of control is the made-up language that Alex and his cohorts use in his gang. Prison guards control prisoners with violence and abuse to ensure that everyone stays in line. Additionally, Alex's general behavior is a perfect example of control in A Clockwork Orange. He controls his image through violence and has no remorse for any of his heinous actions. Alex is a real product of his controlling environment. Additionally, a connection can be made between A Clockwork Orange and the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare through the theme of inner turmoil. Both main characters in these novels lose themselves because of the situations they find themselves in. Overwhelmed by thought and their moral perception, they follow a path of madness. In Hamlet, Prince Hamlet is consumed with doubt, questioning his moral purpose, and it is that downfall which leads him into madness. Hamlet seeks out the ghost of the late king of Denmark, and additionally, he believes that ghost could have just been a visitation by the devil, showing that he is losing his grip on reality and further going mad. Questioning the ghost's true identity shows how Hamlet experiences inner turmoil regarding his father's death and whether or not Claudius should be labeled as a murderer. As Hamlet spirals and understands he needs to kill his uncle, he uses the idea of being mad in love, which could also be viewed as a sane feeling for a person who is deeply in love with their partner. In attempts to convince his uncle he's not out to get him. In A Clockwork Orange, the hallucinogenic milk Alex and his gang drink in the milk bar is a way for Alex to avoid his inner turmoils. It disconnects him from reality. Inner turmoil arises for Alex after he is unable to connect to his past identity, both creatively through music and violently through the Ludovico technique. Additionally, Beethoven's music makes Alex have a physical and negative reaction, which is proof that the government now controls Alex's mind. The second work I will be studying is the connection to the theme of madness and sanity is the film Inception by Christopher Nolan. Inception is a science fiction thriller. The story follows Don Cobb, a skilled extractor who enters people's dreams and steals secrets from their subconscious. Cobb is haunted by the memory of his deceased wife, Ma, and is unable to return to his kids in the United States due to criminal charges against him. Later, a businessman named Saito offers Cobb a chance to return home to his children in the United States, but at a high cost. The task of planting an idea deep inside a person's mind to make them believe it's their own. The target of this inception is Robert Fisher, heir to a business empire which controls the world's largest power source. The goal is to convince Fisher he has to dissolve the company due to the disconnect with his father, the current owner of the company. The plan is to create a dream within a dream within a dream and give Fisher the idea that his dad's most prized possession is him, Robert. Things begin to spiral out of control as Cobb's unsolved guilt about his late wife, Ma, sabotage the mission. Despite this, the mission is completed successfully. The final moments of the film leave you wondering if Cobb has truly made it home to his children or if he is still dreaming. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines inception as an act, process, or instance of beginning, which is exactly what Cobb and his colleagues do when they plant the idea for Fisher to dissolve his father's business empire. Ideas that are planted in the dream subconscious state are the beginning of new thoughts and new paths that the target will find themselves on. This creates a new reality, new direction, and the start of something that they may not have explored without the idea initially being planted. The spinning top is an important symbol in the film Inception. The top is Cobb's connection to the real world. The top was originally used by his wife Ma, so it is a source of guilt that he has over her death. It acts as a weight as he carries it around, both literally and figuratively. If the top stops spinning after it has been spun, one knows they are in the real world. But if the top continues to spin infinitely, you know it's a dream. The top was used many times in the film for this exact reason. Cobb uses the top to keep his mind in check. He will quickly spin it to help him assess which state he is in, dream or reality. In the ending scene of the film, Cobb is reunited with his children, so he decides to spin the top to see if he is in the real world or not. Before the top is able to stop moving, Cobb decides it's not worth the stress of knowing whether it's reality or not. He would just rather live in the moment. This symbolizes Cobb's acceptance of Ma's death and moving on from the guilt that he previously felt. Cobb's children are a key component in the film, even though the audience doesn't see their faces until the end, when they finally catch a glimpse. The children are what make Cobb always want to seek out reality, to seek out a way to return home to them. They are his primary focus of thought. When the children appear to Cobb in his dream state, they are the memory that he last had with them. He never sees their faces. The children represent Cobb's guilt over his wife, Ma's death, and his desire to come to terms with it and reunite with his children. The central conflict in the film Inception is dreams versus reality. The film takes place within reality and dreams, with the guilt of Cobb's past lingering deeper the levels of subconsciousness. At times, Cobb uses his totem, the spinning top, and his desire to reunite with his children as a gauge to his grasp on reality. Dreams and reality in the film also explore how emotional scars that people resolve or store in their minds can affect their mental state. Building a dream from your memory is the easiest way of losing your grasp on reality. This quote is important because it is a metaphor for how people cling to the past and forget about the present. Cobb remains stuck with the idea of Ma's existence throughout his inception into Fisher's mind. Only once he is able to let go of her, he can strive at what is present in his life, his children. A significant connection between The Great Gatsby and Inception is regret. In both works, regret acts as a powerful emotion, driving characters to make life-altering decisions out of madness or sanity. In The Great Gatsby, Jay Gatsby is consumed by regret over losing Daisy and devotes his life to recreating the past, thinking that by becoming wealthy, he can win her back. Looking back on past choices is a sane and logical thing people can do to help guide them for the future. But he changes his name to remake his entire life to try to get Daisy to love him once again. Daisy too carries her own regrets. She chooses security over love when she marries Tom Buchanan. She made a decision for self-preservation, which in this case is a sane action. She also seems more able to move past her previous regrets, which shows that she is of sound mind and is able to work through her mistakes and not hold on to them, unlike Gatsby. In the film Inception, Cobb is haunted by the regret of a previous inception of his wife's mind, which ultimately leads to her own death. Ma's constant projection in Cobb's missions show that Ma represents Cobb's guilt and the trauma over the loss of her. Although Cobb acts in a way that can be seen as rational, pushing down the unresolved emotions around Ma, this leads to cracks in his mental fabric when he is in dreams, indicating that the intensity he feels for Ma drives him mad. Robert Fisher, the target of the Inception, also carries the regret over his relationship with his father, something that Cobb and his crew intend to manipulate in their Inception. Although Robert appears cold throughout the film, it is revealed that he suffers from the lack of meaningful connections with his dad. And it is this regret that makes him vulnerable to the idea Cobb's team planned to plant in his brain. A connection between the film Inception and the play Hamlet is the search for serenity. Both Cobb and Prince Hamlet are burdened by overwhelming responsibilities, yet, at their core, they are each striving for a sense of inner peace. Thinking that he has no other choice than to murder his uncle shows that Hamlet is in fact going mad. For Hamlet, serenity comes through accepting the truth of his situation and letting go of his fear and hesitation. After much reflecting, he ultimately reaches a state of calm acceptance. He is no longer letting his emotions control his actions. Before his duel with Laertes, Hamlet says, "There is a special province in the fall of a sparrow. If it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all." In this passage, Hamlet is essentially saying that he has accepted his fate. Death will come when it is meant to, and no one can change that. By this point, Hamlet has reached his point of serenity because he understands Claudius's time is almost up, and he must die. If this means putting his own life in danger, he is willing to accept that. He is at peace because he is not at odds with his own sanity. For Cobb, serenity means being able to return to his children, free of the guilt of Ma's death. Cobb is able to reach serenity after completing his Inception mission, as he is able to go home to his children. Although the audience doesn't know if the kids are real or in the dream state, Cobb is overcome with joy, so to him whether he is sane or mad has no bearing because he is at peace. The guilt is immense that Cobb has over the death of his wife. He knows that although he didn't intend to hurt her, she did commit suicide, so that makes him force the memory of his wife away to keep him sane. He ends up resolving this when he stays down in the deep subconscious to handle her memory. He still remains sane, understanding that he must not go in order to move on. Cobb tells Ma that he loves her, but to keep himself together, whole and sane, he needs to relieve himself of her, which he does so he will be able to move on with his own life. Now for my thesis comparison. A Clockwork Orange and Inception explore how the boundary between madness and sanity is shaped by personal perception rather than a standard, universal definition. In A Clockwork Orange, Alex is labeled sane after undergoing the Ludovico technique because he is no longer able to make violent choices. His sanity is defined by his obedience according to the government, but he does not feel he has free will. So this could also be madness. In Inception, Cobb's descent into dreams caused him to literally lose touch with reality. While still being able to function and make educated decisions in the dream world, Cobb's perception of a disconnect from reality could be viewed as madness, while still capable of being reasonable thought, implying that he is actually sane. In both examples, an individual's madness and sanity stems from their different experiences, environments, and influences, shaping their definitions of the word, which is a direct comparison to my thesis. Madness and sanity is a subjective topic. What is considered sane or mad may very widely depend may very widely depend on who's answering the question. They are simply social constructs. The theme of truth, lies, and storytelling is explored in both the film Inception and the novel A Clockwork Orange. In Inception, storytelling is literally embedded into the plot through dreams, constructed worlds designed to deceive Fisher into believing a made up story. Cobb and his team create layers of subconsciousness all with their own scenarios to embed a false idea of into Fisher's mind, one in which he feels compelled to sell the company. Even Cobb himself is haunted by fabricated stories, the guilt over Ma's death, and her inability to accept the truth. Ma was satisfied with her reality in the dream world, and was not prepared to leave limbo with Cobb. This caused her reality to warp upon returning to the real world, and believing that she had remained asleep in order to wake up, Ma jumped from a high rise, ultimately ending her life. The line between truth and reality blurs not only for the people being deceived by Cobb himself. The only guaranteed truth in Inception is the top, whether it infinitely spins or it falls. Similarly, in A Clockwork Orange, Alex is subjected to the Ludovico technique, a form of mental storytelling. The technique deems to overwrite Alex's natural violent behavior. The imposed truth rewrites his sense of self, stripping his ability to choose between good and evil. The state lies that a life without free will is still meaningful. Alex becomes a character of a story the government wants to tell, one where crime is cured through control. In both works, truth, lies, and storytelling plays a crucial role. Inception and Clockwork Orange show how powerful story writing, whether it's true or false, can shape one's belief and perception of reality. I gave the novel A Clockwork Orange a star rating of 3 out of 5 stars. The novel is a dark take on humanity's future. The idea of the government control has been explored by many writers in the last 10 decades. Anthony Burgess's description of a sympathetic villain is pure genius. Although he does horrific things, when horrific things are done to him, a sense of sympathy flows. This is a book that belongs in the school curriculum. There is much to take from it as a young reader, and I think many young people would benefit from reading it, as it brings a different perspective on government and political powers, which is explored heavily in the modern day. I gave the film Inception a star rating of 5 out of 5 stars. Inception is a breathtaking film that blends science fiction with action and psychological drama masterfully. Christopher Nolan's delivery of a complex yet emotionally relatable story that cha- that changes viewers that challenges viewers to question the nature of reality and human memory. What makes Inception truly remarkable is not only its visuals but its rich emotional core. Beneath the thrilling action and suspenseful story, there is a story about grief, loss, and a search for inner peace. Inception is a modern classic that redefines sci fi thriller. Thank you for listening to my presentation.